Hey guys, welcome to a new video. Today we'll be covering the Thirdweb React SDK. So, we generally build Web3 applications using libraries like Ethos.js or Web3.js. What Thirdweb does is that it's actually a layer on top of the Ethos.js library. So it comes with a lot of like custom components or hooks that make your life a lot more easier. You have to write fewer lines of code and it's much more easier to debug the code base. It's also very developer friendly and also beginner friendly because you don't need to know every single thing about Web3. You can just get started by setting up Thirdweb SDK on your code base and you're good to go. This video series will be divided into multiple videos that I will release later. Beginning with this one, we will cover the setting up and installation process for Thirdweb React SDK. We will install the libraries, we will set up the Thirdweb React SDK providers, we will feed it the client ID, etc. If you're new to this, don't worry if these words sound scary because I will guide you through each process in detail. If you like this video, please remember to like and subscribe. Also, if you have any feedback regarding how I should be going about these tutorials, feel free to leave a comment below as I'll be going through each and every one of them. So without wasting much time, let's get started with this tutorial. Okay, so with any other React project, we need to create a new folder. I'm going to name it demo app. And let's open this inside of VS Code. It looks like it's already open, so that's great. So what we need to do now is to go to the terminal. Let's open the terminal over here. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to create a new React application using create React app. So if you don't already have it, then you will need to go on Google and search for how to install create React app on your system. So let's go to this link, and as you can see, we have a detailed guide on how we can install create React app using npm on our system. But since I already have it installed, I just need to do npx create React app and then space and then the name of my application. So if you do already have create React installed on your local system, please go ahead and copy this command and paste it on your terminal like so. I'm going to change this app name to my app and hit enter. Now it's going to take its time to install and we'll skip to the part where it's done installing. Great, so now we have installed now we have created a new create React app and we have named it my app, if you remember. So that's the name of the app that is displayed over here. This folder, the project folder that is my app in this case, has a bunch of different folders. As you can see, there's package.json, there's a readme file which is pretty useless, but it's auto-generated because of the create React app script. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's close this package.json file and go to the terminal. Let's hit npm start and see what happens next. Okay, it's showing an error. What happened is we are in the wrong folder. We need to be inside of the project folder where our dependencies are installed so we can run the application. So let's do npm start again and hit enter. It's loading now, and there we go. So it's loading the server, and boom, we have the create React app application running on localhost. Let's close the package.json and go back to app.js where we have the code for the rotating React logo. Now let's go to index.js file to see how the application and the components are basically structured. So as you can see in this file, we have the app component which is being imported exactly on this line. So basically index.js becomes the parent component and app.js becomes the child component, and this is how the structure actually is inside of a create react app project. So this was just to show you how things work here, because now I'm going to show you another example which might help you understand how components are structured and in general work. So let's create a new folder named main app. Within this we're going to create a new file named index.js. Basically what we will do is we'll just write some simple code. Let's just copy what's in app.js into the index.js file. Let's remove these imports as we don't need them, and let's change the name of the function from app to, let's say, sample component. So okay, let's also change the export default to sample component. Great. And I don't want to render the same thing on the front end, so let's change a bit of this code that's been written here. I'm going to remove most of them right here. Yeah, let's cut them off, let's delete them, and let me write, hey there dude, what is going, okay, never mind, I'm just gonna write hey there and then an exclamation mark and hit save. So I'm going to now import the component that we just created into the app.js file like that, and when you really want to use it inside of a JSX tree, you want to import it by the same name that you saved the component with. Okay, so I've saved the file and let's go ahead and see. There we go, hey there exclamation mark has been rendered on the page, which means that the component that we just created is working well, and any changes that we make to it will reflect back on the page that we just saw. Okay, so as you can see, we are on the Thirdweb's official website. I just wanted to show you how the documentation looks like, because in case you're just starting out, you may find some important references. It was a bit difficult to locate the Thirdweb React SDK documentation because they have changed a lot of stuff and introduced a lot of new libraries and features. But if you go to this particular URL, then you can find the exact step-by-step instructions on how to set up your application. So as you can see, if we scroll down here, we have the guide on installing Thirdweb libraries into our project. Over here, if you're using npm, you can copy this code, or if you're using yarn, you can copy this one, but in our case it's npm, so I'll copy this, go back to our project, and let's have a new terminal open up. Let's cd into our project. Cool. Okay, now I'm going to paste it into our terminal like so, and let's hit enter and wait for it to finish downloading. Great, so it's done installing all the Thirdweb libraries. That's great. Let's go to package.json and you will see that we have 3 new libraries added to the list of dependencies: Thirdweb Dev React, Thirdweb Dev SDK, as well as the Ethos library, because both of those Thirdweb libraries rely on Ethos to function. Okay, so now that we are done installing the Thirdweb libraries, and if we scroll down, we see that on this accordion create react app, you can see all the packages that we need to install other than the ones that we already have in order for our application to run well without any errors. So let's go back to our package.json, and as we can see, there's a list of packages including the ones we recently installed, and we are going to paste these new packages over here and hit save. Now let's cd back into our project and let's hit npm install to install all these newly added dependencies into our project. Okay, so now that we are done with that, we also have another thing to do. We need to create a new .env file inside of our project, because if we do npm start, and as you can see in the terminal, we get a bunch of warnings. Normally you can just ignore them and they shouldn't be a problem because they're not errors, they are warnings. However, you may find it annoying, in which case I found a great solution on the Stack Overflow. If you go to this URL, it was posted by Roger Perez, and it says that you need to create a new .env file and set create source map equals false inside of the .env. So let's go back to our project and do the same. Let's create a new .env file inside of the project folder like so. And by the way, this is also mentioned in the Thirdweb documentation, so let's just copy directly from there and paste it inside of our .env file and hit save. Let's go to the terminal again and do npm start. It loads the server again, and as you can see, the warnings are gone. Alright, so if we go back to the Thirdweb documentation again, and if we scroll down a bit, we'll notice that there's a section named Get Started with the React SDK, and if you click on that, you can see we have a couple of instructions over here. What we need to do is we need to set up a Thirdweb provider, as it says here, which will allow us to use the Thirdweb's hooks and components inside of our application. So to set up the Thirdweb provider inside of our project, let's go ahead and copy this line of code where we are importing the Thirdweb provider, and let's add it to our index.js file since it's the topmost component file. What we need to do is we need to copy this code as well so that we can paste it inside of our index.js file, making sure that it's wrapping our app component, something like this. Let's just take the app component and put it inside. There we go. Let's remove this one, we don't need it, and let's hit save. Okay, cool. So now we have officially set up Thirdweb provider. One last thing, as you can see, is that we need to enter the client ID value for this specific argument. And in order to get the client ID, we need to create a new account on Thirdweb's website by signing in with our wallet and creating a new API key, which will give us the client ID that we need to paste over here. So now let's do that. Okay, so I'm on the Thirdweb website and I'll guide you guys through the process of creating an API key. Let's click on Get Started. This will take us to this dashboard URL. Let's go to Settings and click on Connect Wallet. As it says here, I'm gonna choose MetaMask. Now you'll get prompted with this pop-up and you'll need to enter your email as well as name. So let's skip to the part where I've already entered these details. Great, so now we are prompted with this pop-up. It asks us to choose our plan. Let's select the starter plan. Click on Get Started for free here, and it will ask us to add a payment method. Just click on Later, and cool. Now what's the last step is to create an API key. To do that, we'll just go ahead and click on the button on the right side. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna click on this and boom. Let's just give it a random name with the name of our application, project. As far as this second field goes, you can just add an asterisk, which means that we are allowing all the domains. It's not very safe, so please make sure that you don't do this if your app is in production. But for now, let's just go ahead and add an asterisk, and now it gives us a confirmation pop-up because we have chosen to go with the asterisk option. But don't worry about it, let's just proceed. It's loading, and there we go. We have our API key generated, as well as the client ID and the secret key. So we're going to use this client ID as I showed you earlier in the Thirdweb provider. So let's go ahead and actually take a screenshot so I can remember the details later on. Let's copy the client ID and paste it back into our application right over here, and let's hit save. Great. So now we are good to go, as our Thirdweb provider has been set up. However, there's still a lot more configurations that we can make to the provider, which we'll cover along the way. But first we need to understand wallets and chains in Thirdweb. So in the next video, we'll be covering wallets.